This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which, under no circumstances, should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset.
So we looked up a simple Google search, and this is what it says about genetics or DNA tests being banned in Israel. While millions of such kits have been sold in the United States, Israelis are forbidden to buy ancestry DNA kits from the store without representing a court order, as the Israeli government controls these types of purchases due to the genetic information law. I wonder why. This question also popped up as well. Why is DNA test illegal in Israel? It is actually in part due to the fear that such information may append marriages and maternal lineages, keyword maternal, that in 2000 the Israeli government passed the genetic information law, which makes it effectively illegal to use DTC genetic testing kit in Israel. Like I've stated in many of my older videos, the Bible is a patriarchal book, not a matriarchal book. The man is the head, not the woman. And it states relating to or denoting a form of social organization in which a woman is the head, a matriarchal society, denoting an older woman who is powerful within a family or organization. And this is why I laugh at those who state you are not of your father's seed, because the Bible is a patriarchal book. The man is the head, not the woman. And the various nations are established by the man's seed, more specifically in the scriptures, the holy seed, that being the man, aka the Negroes or the ancient Israelites. But oftentimes in the so-called black community, what do we see? Woman taking the head. Some examples of matriarchal or a woman taking the head are BLM, Black Lives Matter, or aka Black Lesbians Matter, or any other woman activist in a sense. Then we have to ask ourselves, what change has really come in the so-called black community? The men are pretty much docile and feminized by single mothers and so forth. That's where you get a lot of effeminate, emotional, weak men. But I digress.
Reason why today it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
I want to make sure this person knows that my name is Melinda, not Melissa. I do actually answer to Melissa because so many people forget that my name is Melinda, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is that I am, in fact, white. But funny enough, during the Holocaust, me and all of my people were not considered white. I guess we're just white when it's convenient to you. See, this person keeps pushing that I'm from Europe, that my family's from Europe. Actually, did you know that my grandmother was born in Israel? Well, at the time, it was called British mandated Palestine, but it was the land of Israel. So in my genes, I am in fact Middle Eastern.
Once again, with a simple Google search, you can find where they originally coined the word Middle East. The Middle East was originally coined in the late 19th century by the British, along with other Eurocentric geographic terms such as the Near East. And it states the so-called Middle East is a flexible geographic term that shifts depending on the user and the era. We will use it throughout this text in its most inclusive definitions and will refrain from assigning definitive boundaries. We will also use the term because it is currently in dominant usage over the other descriptors or overlapping territory that have waxed and waned in prominence over time. The Middle East was originally coined in the late 19th century by the British, along with other Eurocentric geographic terms such as the Near East, the Eastern Mediterranean regions closest to Europe, and the Far East, China, Japan, Korea, and other East Asian entities much farther away from Europe. The Middle East at that time was defined as a region lying between these two extremes, the Arabian Peninsula, Mesopotamia, and the Persian and Central Asian lands. The Near East has somewhat fallen out of favor, but generally is deployed interchangeably with the term Middle East. The Middle East has in turn crept westward to envelop the eastern Mediterranean and even North Africa, sometimes at the expense of its eastern fringes in Central Asia. So this man right here, Alfred Thayer Mahan, if I'm pronouncing that right, coined the term the Middle East. Terminology, the term Middle East, may have originated in the 1850s in the British India Office. However, it became more widely known when the American navalist strategist Alfred Thayer Mahan used the term in 1902 to designate the area between Arabia and India.
I may not look it, and I definitely don't sound it. And it's wild to me that people just like ignore history and pretend it never happened. Screaming out that my people are from Europe or that we're all white, as if we didn't originally come from the land of Judea and then get kicked out and many went to Europe. But there were always Jews that were still there in the land of Israel. I also just want to be really clear that not all Jewish people are white or have white skin. There are black Jews.
So according to Judaism, you are what your mother is, the maternal line. So right here we have a so-called white woman. You know, she's Jewish by religion or conversion. And we have a so-called black man, aka a Gentile, in their religious beliefs. But you have to tell me, what is a so-called black person in history? I'm still trying to find out who they are and what they were. And it states, according to rabbinic law, from the 2nd century to the present, the offspring of a Gentile mother and a Jewish father is a Gentile, while the offspring of a Jewish mother and a Gentile father is a Jew. Albeit, and according to the Mishnah, a mamzer and a Jew of impaired status. Now, according to the scriptures or the Torah, this is totally contradictive of what is actually presented in the text. And we're going to go by contextualized facts, not about how I feel or what you think. Here we have the book World War II, The Nazis by Robert Edward Hertzstein and the editors of Time Life magazine. Okay, I've showed this book plenty of times, but it's always good to go back over this. As we can see right here, Hitler, in one segment of a Nazi instructional film, right, the genetic, there's that word again, genetic heritage of the Jew is purportedly traced to Oriental and Negro, near Asian and Hamitic peoples. Okay? So even they knew who, quote unquote, the real Judeans or 12 tribes were. Right here. This looks like a brother every day that you see in New York or somewhere in the Americas, right? Oriental. And right here you have the quote unquote Niger. I'm saying that because I don't want to get my video banned. And right here we have the Hamite, you know, Cush, Nimrod, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Libyans, the Canaanites. All these were from the lineage of Ham, not the Negroes, aka what? The Israelites or the Hebrews or the Jews or Judeans, I should say. So with all this right here, genetic, okay, from the patriarchal side, then you get this. Okay. What is the meaning of a mamzer? It means bastard. Mamzer, noun, a Yiddish slang word for bastard. Judaism, a child of a incestuous or adulterous union. And I'm not saying that. I mean, this is in a Time Life magazine book, for crying out loud. Genetic heritage of the Judean or Jew is purportedly traced to Oriental, Negro, near Asian, and Hamitic peoples. Okay? That's why they don't allow a DNA test.
There are Asian Jews, there are Middle Eastern Jews, there are Ethiopian Jews. And people who say comments like this just show me how little they actually know.
So now we're at Deuteronomy chapter 7. I'm going to start at verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away the son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord or Yahweh be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. Verse 5, but thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord Yahweh thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So we're at the word ethnicity. Ethnicity has been defined as the social group a person belonging to and either identifies with or is identified with by others as a result of mix of culture and other factors including language, diet, religion, ancestry, and physical features traditionally associated with race, meaning what? Seed line. But when you adhere to the historical narrative, so-called blacks were nothing but slaves, white people were nothing but slave masters, and everything, including the language, is of the white man. And most of our people think on that wavelength. Not all.
You just use the white language.
Excuse me?
You just use the white
There's
language.
no such thing as white language.
There's no such
Right?
thing.
What are we speaking right now? English.
We're
Right?
speaking the white
All
language.
languages come from our people.
Now, a lot of our people assume that because we've been taught the slave narrative, okay? Historical narrative is that we're all from Africa on slave ships. A lot of our people don't know our European ancestry, where we ruled over there for over 1,000 years. I know it sounds redundant, but this needs to be talked about because, you know, this is one of the many spells that they put on our people. And they use history and movies and documentaries by Boule Negroes to uphold that slave narrative theory.
We created everything. White man don't have nothing. Right? With the caves of Europe. And anything he do have, he might have stole and added on to it, but nothing comes from it, all comes from us. Right? So there's no such thing as the white man's language. Everything comes from the 12 tribes of Israel. So we have to be concentrated on our people. Right? It's funny how it's like y'all quicker to defend him.
You don't see white people as humans.
White man. Hold on, no. I'm saying y'all quicker to be concerned about other people.
Not at
than
all.
y'all
I'm a
own.
very Afrocentric person because I love my race.
I'm not even talking about Afrocentric.
We're talking about
the conversation that we having. Y'all didn't even dwell on our people. Y'all jumped right to other nations of people.
So,
now when you check it out,
white people are not humans.
no, when you check it out, our people are the ones that suffering and need each other to unite. Hold on, to unite and come together. With our brothers getting gunned down in the streets of Missouri, with our brothers getting choked out in New York. But I'm just saying how y'all immediately asking about the white race.
So the lives of Ukraine are not as important as ours.
There you go again.
So other people dying everywhere else.
Y'all
is
more
not as
concerned
important as
about
black
other
people dying.
Now, if anyone remembers that movie with Chris Rock, it was called Top 5, when they were walking in the park and they were talking about the Planet of the Apes. And Chris Rock was stating that the movie was really about black rulership or the blacks taking over. And the globalist so-called black woman, which is one of her many alters, was talking about, no, it's about humanity. It's about the whole human race. And we see this in this clip. Art imitates life, life imitates art. They're one and the same.
It's staring you right in the face, right? Every Planet of the Apes movie is about race. Everyone.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the trilogy that starts off with Charlton Heston frolicking naked with a black astronaut. That typical sci-fi movie that's about the future and about how the human race is out of control. Yes, about race, but the human race.
No. It's about the white man's fear of a black planet. The darker apes are bigger and stronger. The lighter apes are smarter. Just racist bullshit. Do you realize that the original Planet of the Apes came out on April 3rd, 1968? Now, we both know what happened the next day.
Martin Luther King was killed.
You didn't even mention.
created
Now,
the man.
you didn't even absorb what I just said. You didn't even just say.
We heard what you
We
just said.
You heard, but you didn't even pay it no attention. You didn't
I'm
give it.
listening.
You didn't even give it no.
God created man with no race,
Right.
origin, nationality.
Right.
or
But he
anything
created
else. He
one
created
chosen
us.
nation of people. Right. That's
Nation
it.
of
And that's the
people.
12
I heard
tribes
what
of
you
Israel.
said, nation of
That's
people.
it.
Israel
So,
is not one nation of
Only thing I
person.
can tell y'all is this: learn to be more concerned and love y'all.
Let me ask you a question.
So hold on. Then jump into another race that don't care about you.
It's not about
especially the white race. I don't get it.
Can I say
We're
something?
never concerned with our own.
Wait, so you don't consider white people as humans?
No, I
Although
don't.
they breathe, they bleed, they look.
The Bible says they were no people because of their characteristics. God considers them a no people. Even though they are, even though they are
You made that, right?
on the earth,
Did you talk to God about that?
Yes, I did. I seen it through the white man's actions. And y'all more concerned with them than y'all own people, and that's sad. That's real sad.
When they come in the paper.
That's damn sad. Right? But you know what, though? I leave y'all with this. Repent, keep God's laws, learn to love y'all own people.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing that all
Because the so-called white man don't care about y'all.
And I'm very concerned.
As much as y'all defending him, he don't care about y'all.
I'm not defending him.
Right. Say it again?
I'm glad you believe in something.
I'm glad, but I don't know what y'all believe in.
And that's one of the many obstacles in the so-called black community, especially here in the Americas. We all identify with hue or melanin or pigmentation. But when it comes down to culture, language, diet, deity, we have no clue. Most of our people just associate with being African Americans and black, a never-ending story. So now we're in the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, and it states Jacobite, from Jacobus James, a partisan or adherent of James II, King of England, after being abdicated the throne, and his descendants, of course, opposer of the revolution in 1688 in favor of William and Mary. So right here we have the word partisans. Number 1, a strong supporter of a party, cause, or person. Number 2, a member of an armed group formed to fight secretly against a occupying force. Okay, as we just read with the Jacobites. Similar, guerrilla, freedom fighter, etc. So now we're at the book, The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles, page 90. And it states, the Catholic King James II was the son of Charles I and the younger brother and successor of Charles II, who was called the Black Boy. James ruled England from AD 1685 through 1688. His reign was a disaster because of his pro-Catholic views, bitter squabbling with the parliamentary laws, and the discovery of a plot he had contrived to pass the English crown to his Catholic children rather than those of the Protestant faith. His policies repudiated the British Parliament, which forced him to abandon his rule and flee to France, where he died. James II was succeeded by his daughter, Mary II, and her husband, William III. King James II is a distant first cousin of Elizabeth II. So now we're in the book, The Negro Question, Part 4, The Missing Link, Chapter 3, Oliver Cromwell. History records that after the execution of Charles I of Scotland and England, that Oliver Cromwell invaded Scotland, killed 4,000 men, and took 10,000 captive. For some inexplicable reason, it took Cromwell 1 year to end the war in Scotland. What do I know and I am certain of is he deported the Scots to the American colonies, the Black Scots. These Black Europeans were sent to the Barbados, Boston, Charleston, Cambridge, Concord, Hingham, Ipswich, Virginia, Newark, and the Southern Plantations. These are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. These Scottish blacks are among us in the Americas, and we are ignorant to their existence as well as they are. It has been reported that in the African American community, a lot of so-called blacks have Scottish and Irish last names. This coat of arms, as you probably know, was found in Scotland, Europe. It has been written that Andrew, the chief of the clan, rendered homage to King Edward I of England in 1296. The purpose of this image is to reinforce the writings of the historians that the original people of Europe were black. Color is only being mentioned for the sake of identifying a people among us who don't know who they are. I want to stop for a moment and make a statement that is sincere. Civilizations have come and gone no matter what the color, but one thing that I have come to understand is that the victor goes the land and the identity. When the Scottish blacks were driven out of Scotland, the English, white English, moved into the empty lands and confiscated their property and took their identity. Interesting.
Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I got a story time for you. So my family was one of those families. You know, we've got this much Cherokee in our ancestry, and they had some things to kind of back it up. There were like paintings or artifacts, sort of things to be like, oh, actually, no, we do. So imagine their surprise when we did an ancestry test, and none. 0, despite the glorious cheekbones, those not indigenous. But then where did these receipts come from to say that we did have this ancestry? It was a bit more sinister than the fam was expecting. Have you heard of the Cherokee land lotteries? I hadn't, but apparently my family won one. So when the Cherokees were ousted from their land, Trail of Tears, all of that, their land was lotteried off. My family bought into the raffle and won one of these plots of land with everything that was still on it from when the family was forcibly removed. This is why we had pictures and artifacts, things that my family just, whitewashed into our story of, oh, this is part of our history. I mean, when they talk about appropriation, y'all, in this time of banned books and suppressing narratives that don't look good on our country, it's important that we tell our stories so that people can know the truth of what happened.
Now you heard it from the horse's mouth. This is real history. Other people abducted the, identity, language, customs, and now their descendants believe that they are the original people. The irony of that, right? Reading on, this concept is not as ridiculous as you might think. The same thing happened to the Jews or the Judeans or Israelites of the Bible. When you get some time, read the book of the prophet Obadiah. The prophet states that when the Chaldeans invaded Judah and took them captive, that the Edomites, so-called Caucasians or whites, moved into Judah and began to call themselves after the original inhabitants of the land.
See, this person keeps pushing that I'm from Europe, that my family's from Europe. Actually, did you know that my grandmother was born in Israel? Well, at the time, it was called British mandated Palestine, but it was the land of Israel. So in my genes, I am in fact Middle Eastern. I may not look it, and I definitely don't sound it. And it's wild to me that people just ignore history and pretend it never happened. Screaming out that my people are from Europe or that we're all white, as if we didn't originally come from the land of Judea and then get kicked out and many went to Europe. But there were always Jews that were still there in the land of Israel.
And I'm not making fun of this lady or no verbal attacks, but a lot of these people with pale skin, this is their reality. They believe that they are the progenitors of certain civilizations and races, but it's not the case. So a lot of these people are taught that, they were rulers and they were, mighty and so forth. But every spirituality or every spiritual book was written by people of color, from the Dravidian Indians to the original black or melanated Hebrews or ancient Israelites, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and many other indigenous, swarthy, tawny people of color. Reading on, you are probably thinking to yourself that this is impossible. Is it really? Think outside the box for a moment. When the English came to America, there was an indigenous people here called the Indians, and the land was filled with them. Once the Indians were driven out of the land, the whites, the English, confiscated the land and took on their names.
Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I got a story time for you. So my family was one of those families. We've got this much Cherokee in our ancestry, and they had some things to kind of back it up. There were paintings or artifacts, sort of things to be oh, actually, no, we do. So imagine their surprise when we did an ancestry test and none, zero, despite the glorious cheekbones, those not indigenous.
Reading on, the English began to call themselves Americans, and so do you. Think about it. Now we're back at the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, and it states American pertaining to America. Now, a native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, the black and so-called white Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Reading on, when Oliver Cromwell enslaved and deported the Irish/Scots and Brits out of the land, he gave the land to his soldiers under the Land Confiscation Act. It was said that he did this because he couldn't afford to pay his soldiers. We will see the gruesome history surrounding this event in the future chapters. Remember that the Scots, Irish, and Welsh are the same people.